Fear is not just a feeling, it's a real experience, lived by the body, the mind, and the soul all at once. We tremble, we sweat, we feel tightness in the chest. But behind these simple symptoms lies a complex scientific story and a deep philosophy that's thousands of years old. In this video, we'll try to understand, what is fear really? How is it formed within us? And why can't we get rid of it? Can we live without fear? Or is fear what keeps us alive? What is fear, neurologically speaking? Scientifically, fear is a physiological and emotional response that begins when the brain interprets something as a potential threat. That threat doesn't have to be real. Sometimes it's just a thought or a memory of a past event. The main player is the amygdala. When the amygdala receives a danger signal from the senses, like a sound, an image, or even a thought, it activates the brain's alarm system and sends signals to the sympathetic nervous system. The body starts releasing adrenaline and cortisol. The heart begins to race, muscles tighten, blood flows to the limbs, preparing for fight or flight. This entire process happens within a fraction of a second, before you consciously realize you're afraid. Your body always reacts before your mind when it comes to survival. The emotional brain versus the rational brain. Inside the human brain, there's a constant conflict between the amygdala, the emotional center, and the prefrontal cortex, the thinking center. When we face a scary situation, the amygdala says, "Run now." The prefrontal cortex says, "Wait, let's make sure it's really dangerous." Fear is the final result of this inner conflict between instinct and reason. That's why fear isn't something we can easily control, because it's not a conscious choice. It's a built-in mechanism that has existed in our brains for millions of years. Types of fear. Innate fear. The one we're born with. Like the fear of falling or loud noises, these fears are linked to survival and exist even in infants. Learned fear. The result of experience and conditioning, like fear of exams, insects, or failure. These are formed through associative learning in the brain. Why fear is necessary. Fear isn't our enemy. It's our protection system. Without it, we'd act recklessly and put our lives in danger. Even animals depend on fear to survive. It's the thin line between caution and recklessness. But here's the problem. The human mind evolved faster than our biology. Our bodies still think we're in the jungle, while we now fear emails, deadlines, or other people's opinions. Fear has changed its shape, but it never disappeared. When does fear become a disorder? When the amygdala activates without a clear reason, it leads to panic attacks, phobias, chronic anxiety. Normal fear protects you, but excessive fear traps you inside yourself. Treatment often involves reprogramming the brain through cognitive behavioral therapy, gradual exposure to fears, breathing and thought regulation exercises. Because when you change the way you interpret a situation, your emotional response changes too. Now let's leave science and step into what lies beyond it. Philosophers saw fear not as a bodily reaction, but as an existential state. Fear of the unknown. Plato once said, "Man fears because he is ignorant." We don't fear the darkness itself, but what might be inside it. And so, the more aware we become, the more we fear, because knowledge expands the borders of the unknown. Fear and freedom. Kierkegaard believed fear is the price of freedom. When you realize you're responsible for your choices, you feel anxiety, because you can make mistakes, and your life is in your own hands. Greater Than He called this the dizziness of freedom. Sartre continued this idea, saying, "Fear is not weakness. It's awareness of possibility. We fear because we know things can go wrong and that we're never immune to loss or death." Fear as a driving force. From another philosophical view, fear isn't just negative. It's the fuel of awareness and progress. Primitive humans wouldn't have learned to make fire or build shelter without fear of cold and death. Fear drives us to explore, to invent, to evolve. Even in your own life, many of your greatest decisions began with fear. Fear of failure, fear of loss, fear of staying the same. In the end, fear is not something to destroy, but to understand. It's like our shadow. The more we run from it, the closer it follows. But when we finally turn to face it, we realize it was never an enemy. It was a teacher,